Introduction. The Richmond-Petersburg campaign during the American Civil War took place from June 9, 1864, to March 25, 1865. It involved battles and a 9-month-long trench warfare near Petersburg, Virginia. Union forces, led by Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant, unsuccessfully attacked Petersburg before constructing trench lines that stretched over 30 miles. The Confederate Army relied on Petersburg for supplies, and the campaign aimed to sever their access via the Richmond and Petersburg Railroad. The trench lines grew longer as battles ensued. Eventually, Confederate General Robert E. Lee abandoned both cities in April 1865, leading to his retreat and surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. The Siege of Petersburg foreshadowed the trench warfare of World War I and had a significant presence of African American troops, who suffered heavy casualties in battles like the Crater and Chaffin's Farm. Background. In March 1864, Ulysses S. Grant became Lieutenant General and devised a coordinated strategy to pressure the Confederacy. Grant planned to attack Robert E. Lee's army from the north while other forces targeted Richmond. Several initiatives failed due to political appointments rather than military expertise. However, Sherman's campaign in Georgia succeeded, and Grant's Army of the Potomac engaged in the Overland Campaign, keeping Lee on the defensive. Despite heavy casualties, Grant maneuvered towards Richmond. At the Battle of Cold Harbor, his frontal assault failed. Grant then moved his army to the James River, aiming to seize Petersburg and isolate Richmond. Petersburg's importance as a supply center made it a strategic target. By besieging Petersburg, Grant planned to either starve Lee's army or lure it into a decisive battle. Lee initially believed Richmond was the main target and assigned minimal troops to defend Petersburg. Battle. During the Civil War, several key battles and engagements took place around Petersburg and Richmond. Benjamin Butler planned an attack on Petersburg, but faced delays and Confederate reinforcements. Despite initial successes by Union forces, Butler failed to capitalize on opportunities to capture Petersburg, allowing the Confederates to strengthen their defenses. Union attacks on June 16 and 17 were repulsed, leading to a 10-month siege of Petersburg. In an effort to secure rail lines, Grant ordered a cavalry raid called the Wilson-Kautz Raid, which ultimately failed with significant Union casualties. Union infantry forces also attacked the Weldon Railroad but faced strong resistance and had to retreat. The First Battle of Deep Bottom aimed to divert Confederate forces from Petersburg but ended inconclusively. The Battle of the Crater was a major assault by the Union, where a mine was detonated under Confederate lines. However, the Union forces failed to exploit the resulting gap and suffered heavy casualties. Confederate forces counterattacked and successfully drove the Union troops back. The Union suffered high casualties, and Burnside was relieved of command. At Deep Bottom, Union forces clashed with Confederate troops but were unable to exploit their initial progress due to strong Confederate resistance. The Union suffered casualties, as did the Confederates. The Union also attempted to attack the Weldon Railroad at Globe Tavern and Reams Station but faced strong Confederate counterattacks and had to retreat in both instances. Confederate forces conducted a successful raid, known as the Beefsteak Raid, targeting a Union supply depot and capturing cattle. In late September, Union forces attacked the Richmond defenses during the Battle of New Market Heights but were unable to break through Confederate defenses. Overall, these engagements resulted in significant casualties and prolonged the conflict around Petersburg and Richmond. Aftermath. After almost 10 months of siege, the Confederate defeat at Fort Stedman proved devastating for Lee's army. This led to subsequent losses at Five Forks and the Union breakthrough at Petersburg. Petersburg surrendered on April 3, followed by Richmond the same evening. Grant launched a full-scale assault after the victory at Five Forks on April 2. The 9th Corps overran eastern trenches, while Wright's 6th Corps achieved a decisive breakthrough. The Union advance briefly paused at Fort Gregg but eventually overran it. Lee withdrew his forces from Petersburg and Richmond on April 2, aiming to join General Johnston in North Carolina. The Appomattox campaign concluded with Lee's surrender on April 9. The Richmond-Petersburg campaign resulted in significant casualties for both sides. The initial assaults in June 1864 caused 11,386 Union and around 4,000 Confederate casualties. The siege warfare and assault on Fort Stedman led to an estimated 42,000 Union and 28,000 Confederate casualties.